50 days into his second term, President Trump is looking to reshape global order once again. His negotiating team heading to Saudi Arabia this week to meet with Ukrainian officials over a potential peace deal with Russia. And the stakes couldn't be higher, warning Ukraine may not survive the war.
Are you comfortable with that? The fact that you walked away and Ukraine may not survive?
Well, it may not survive anyway, but, you know, we have some weaknesses with Russia. You know, it takes two. Look, it was not going to happen, that war, and it happened. So now we're stuck with this mess.
Meanwhile, President Trump is also hoping to make a deal with Iran, sending a letter to their supreme leader asking to negotiate a curb to their nuclear program.
Well, there are two ways Iran can be handled, militarily or you make a deal. I would prefer to make a deal because I'm not looking to hurt Iran. They're great people. I know so many Iranians from this country.
Iran's response? They won't be bullied into talks. Jackie, I start with you on that. Is Trump trying to bully them? It's not like
not trying to bully them. Look, he's being penalized for talking to our enemies. If you don't talk to our enemies and you bury your head in the sand, then everything just continues and the status quo remains the same. Iran is the primary agent in the Middle East, destabilizing everything with its proxy groups that it funds. We can talk about Israel. We can talk about what's happening in Yemen. We can talk about Syria. We can go on and on and on. And so what I think he's trying to do, instead of cut deals like nuclear deals that don't work, that allow them to enrich their program anyway and pretend like it's not happening here in the United States, he's trying to actually have a conversation with them. Is it bullying? You can call it whatever you want. I think the vocabulary or the words we use don't really matter at this point. He's saying, I want to make a deal with you. You need to back off or I will threaten military action. And I think that's what he should be saying right now. Nobody wants to go to war with Iran. Nobody wants civilians to die. When he talks about the people of Iran, he's talking about, you know, just the normal people like my mother who came to this country from Iran. It's the regime that is the problem. Right. It's the regime that, you know, that sort of nucleus needs to be rooted out of. And that's what he's trying to do. I mean, he's trying to do it with every enemy we have. God bless him.
Dagen, to that point, let me jump into that point. Yep. All of these folks around the world are just used to an America that's apologetic, that bows to everyone and writes a check. You know, here's an interesting article. 5 times Obama administration insisted cash was the only way to pay Iran. Right. I mean, $1.7 billion there, another whatever. Pallets and pallets of cash flown in overnight. And we didn't curb anything. We didn't stop anything. Right. We emboldened them. They are the architects, right? The Ayatollah of terror throughout the region. And here's the thing. They take these much poorer nations and the Houthis, I mean, all these Houthi rebels, and they're just running. They're just dying out there. They're just, I don't even know, just they live to die. You know, they live to be bombed one day or to a suicide mission the next day. And all being orchestrated by someone living in a palace. It's nuts.
Well, this is why when I hear the word Iran and deal in the same sentence, I flinch, because it makes me think about what Obama was trying to do and what Biden was trying to do. Now the president, Dagen, is saying deal. I don't think he's talking about anything like the same deal. Do you think he's talking about anything like the same deal?
No, because he didn't mention the maximum pressure campaign that they've already brought back in terms of sanctions and starving Iran. They will no longer, would you say, embolden? Yeah. They empowered and enriched Iran. And what Biden did was even worse than what Obama did. Obama's administration got caught sending pallets of cash to Iran, but the Biden administration was trying to hide the riches that were funneled to the regime that wants to wipe the United States and Israel off the map. Yeah. From day one, they wanted to re-enter negotiations for the JCPOA, the Iran nuclear deal. So they just ignored all the sanctions on Iran. And Iran in oil exports made roughly $200 billion in exporting oil, largely to China, because they just looked the other way. Yeah. And the Biden officials were in the press, unnamed, bragging about how they were getting ready to bring Iran back to the table because we had taken our foot off of the sanctions on Iran and had let them export oil out of the nation. That was in August. before the October 7th Hamas attack that killed families, women, and children in Israel. That was the level of grotesqueness of the Biden administration. This is just on the surface. And what we do here in terms of opening up our energy economy will starve Iran, and it'll also starve Russia. So everything we do in terms of energy security and plentifulness here, it hurts Russia and Iran. Those two go hand in hand.
Well, talking energy and resources, Speaker Mike Johnson Taylor said he thinks that Zelensky's ready to do a total about-face on the rare earth minerals deal and maybe much more than that. What do you make of it?
I think maybe I've come around a little bit more to the minerals deal than I was before. I think my original hesitation was, I love the idea that it is an option and you pay for an option to keep the drilling and the mining open. But I was worried that it further entrenched us in that region. And I don't want implicit security guarantees when that means and we are guaranteed to be there to protect those assets. But it was interesting. I was speaking to Brian Kilmeade earlier, and he sort of reminded me that if not us, China. And if China will go in there with 6-year-olds and a metal spoon and say, dig for the lithium, we're at least going to bring a sense of humanity and moral compass. And frankly, we are desperate for those minerals as well. So I think maybe I didn't love that it made us so entrenched and tied to that region. But if it's not us and it's China and we're all competing for those same minerals, and Brian, you pull up a chart, frankly, it's Russia and China who have access to all the rare earth minerals. Yeah. So we need it. So, you know, I like it. And if Trump has said it's not boots on the ground, it's sort of that implicit security guarantee, then I think we need it if we need these minerals.
And Charles, quickly, the refining.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing, right?
Yeah.
We're like, for instance, where these metals are produced, Chile, Indonesia, Australia, the Republic of Congo, where they are processed, 40% copper, China, 30% nickel, China. 60% cobalt, China. Rare earths, almost 80% China. Lithium, over 50% China.
Yep.
They've been brilliant about that. So we've got to think about all of the steps if we want to have this sort of fourth industrial revolution is based on these materials.
Yeah.
We have to have them. It's not an option.
Not an option. Great discussion.